This episode of Storycomic Presents is sponsored by JanicePointPress.com. Watch out for wormholes. Welcome to Storycomic Presents, where we interview amazing storytellers and artists. This is episode 328. I'm your host, Barney Smith of Storycomic.com, and we're excited to have back with us the internationally acclaimed and talented comic creator of Plague Doctor Press, Mark Bell.
After 2 years. It was
I
2
know,
years ago
Mark.
that I was on that show, on your show.
I know you came on talking about Spirit, your comic book series, which I read the first 2 issues and it was fantastic.
Oh, thank you very
I love the feel of it, and I know when you were on 2 years ago, you're promoting it. It was inevitable. I said I'm going to back this, so this is absolutely had to go ahead and back it. And since then, you've been very busy over the last couple of years. As we were talking before we live, you have a very successful podcast. You also just came out with a Stranger Ranger, but you're also here to talk about Spirit issue number 3, which is
Yep,
now live as a Kickstarter.
yep. So what happened was Spirit 2 backed successfully with the last time I was on, and, Melissa Caprione, the artist I work with, was doing a fantastic job, and then, she signed a contract with Dark Horse to do a graphic novel, and I don't have Dark Horse money, so they moved to the front of the line, which is a-okay. I was absolutely fine with it. So Melissa finished her graphic novel called Basil and Oregano, which everyone should pick up already. It's young women at a magical cooking school, like how it's just delightful.
Uh-huh.
And then she finished off Spirit number 2, and I sort of spent the year selling it at conventions, and it went over gangbusters, but I wanted to expand my IP because if you have only a small amount of titles on your table, you're not serving as many people as you can, right?
Right.
So I wanted to do a Kickstarter between Spirit 2 and Spirit 3, and I wanted to do another idea, and I threw around a bunch of ideas over it was like last spring I was working on this. And finally I came across this idea that I had in my pocket for a long time, which was Strange Ranger. Now,
Mm.
this originally started as a video game
Huh.
because during the pandemic, I wanted to learn how to code better because I'm a programmer and a coder. I usually do mostly web stuff. So I wanted to sort of just polish up my chops, and as well, I knew if I had a project during the pandemic, it would make it better for me.
Right.
Because I'm an extroverted guy, I'm always needed to be doing something. So this was a massive project that I undertook. And I essentially took my 2 favorite video games at that point, which was a game called Stardew Valley, which is a farming social sim, which I really love and played for years, and put it together with a large environment survival game called The Long Dark, which is a very different game, but I wanted to create these big environments to explore because that's what I really like in games is exploring
Right.
these environments. So I worked 6, 8 months on Strange Ranger the game and got it to the point where I was building quest systems and things like that. And then I got a job, so I was like, well, I can program at work. I don't need to program at home. And making a game is a really difficult thing, especially on
Mm.
your own.
Right.
And so I still have the files. I could pick it up and start working on it tomorrow. I didn't get rid of it, but I just kind of put it on the back burner. And I think it was at Indie Comic Con, my wife said, "Well, what about if you did Strange Ranger as a comic?" I was like, "Oh, that's an idea." So the idea came out of the game, but I wanted a female strong female character lead. That's what I wanted. That's
Right.
Agatha Wayne right there. And I wanted, um, a young woman who was on her first job. So she is solely responsible for this imaginary park. It's not a state park, it's not a national park, it's a park. It
Mhm.
exists in that magical sort of place. And uh I wanted it all ages, and I wanted it to be a little more um adventure-y and a little more supernaturally than
Okay.
than Spirit has, because Spirit has a vibe, and I'm really glad that Melissa and I have a really good handle on that vibe, but I just wanted to do something slightly different. So I came up with this concept of this young woman in her first job, and I reached out to an artist named Yonson Carbonell. He's a young man from the Dominican Republic who does
Okay.
just gorgeous artwork.
Right.
And I pitched him the idea, and he was like, "I love this." And so we worked together on getting that going, and we kickstarted that. So Indie Comic Con was like in May, and by the middle of July, we had started the Kickstarter, and
Okay.
that Kickstarter was successful. And because of that, um, I've had to set up so that I have to print Spirit number 1 for a 3rd time. So to fulfill Spirit number 2, I had to do another printing of Spirit number 1 because people like to buy 1 and 2 if they don't have any, right? They don't like
Right.
2, they wanna buy 1 and
Right.
2.
Right.
So I had to do another printing, which is just if so next month, December of, 20 it would be 2018. December 2018 is when I started Plague Doctor Press. If you had told me in December 2018 I was gonna go into my 3rd printing because the Spirit 3 Kickstarter and the Strange Ranger Kickstarter, I gotta do another printing of Spirit number 1 already. If I had gone into told me I was going into the 3rd printing of Spirit number 1, I would have been like, "You're that's just not possible. I couldn't sell that many comics." But I have. So Strange Ranger was a huge success. Um, I think it brought a bunch of new readers to Spirit, as well as bringing a bunch of new readers, uh, from Strange Ranger to Spirit number 3. Like, it's growing that. And Uh, the artwork, and I've talked a lot about this to a lot of people. When you put Janssen's artwork beside Melissa's artwork, they look like they go together, but they're not the same.
Right. Right. Yeah, exactly.
And that I am so glad I have that because now my table at a convention has Spirit 1, 2, and 3. It has it'll have Strange Ranger number 1, possibly number 2, because I'm crazy on the Kickstarters now, it seems. And then, um, and Zed, which I've done as an omnibus now. So this is all the Zed
Right.
web comics put in one book with the covers. And I printed it in manga size on paper that looks like it's the thinnest paper. So it's kind of like an old time Archie comic. And it
Right.
has that coloring too, which is what I always wanted that comic to be like. So now I'll have four full-size 32-page books on my table, plus this book that any kid can come up to my table and look at. that any young woman can approach my table and see women on the cover of all my books, that any young person of color can come to my table and see people of color in my comics.
Right.
And that that is exactly what I wanted to have.
Right.
There's been a lot of talk lately in the Kickstarter community about adult books doing very well, and I am in no way against adult books. I've backed some really good adult books with great art in it, but being an all ages publisher on Kickstarter sets me apart now.
Right.
So, and that again is the end goal is to get more people into comic book shops, into comics, into making comics, and into reading comics.
Right.
And this is my way into this. So Strange Ranger was successful. Janssen's already done the inks. He's half done the colors. I can't believe how fast he works. Um, and we are on to Spirit number 3, and Melissa's already done some amazing artwork for this. Spirit number 3 is another self-contained story, but it's even more than a self-contained story. It's a story in a day. If you remember, there was a movie in the 80s about a young group of boys who go to see a body called Stand By Me.
Yeah.
This is very Stand By Me influenced.
Okay.
But but instead of going to see a body, what happens is the spirit characters who are sign of supernatural investigators, while trying to find Bigfoot, find a hurt Bigfoot.
Watch out for wormholes, because a good book is a wormhole, whether it's paper or pixels. Explore our artist books and chat books, including the winning 2022 Chautauqua Janus Prize Lecture at januspointpress.com. And sign up for news of our upcoming sci fi, sensual, and literary collection, Event Horizon. This short story collection on cosmic decisions and their impact is written by award winning author Stephanie Nina Pizzarillos and features comics, prose, photography, and original canvas work by an array of exciting artists. Visit januspointpress.com. For those that might have missed we were on a couple years ago, do you want to just briefly explain what Spirit is about, what it stands for, the characters, and also what happened in issue number 1 and 2? Then,
Okay, okay.
yeah,
So Spirit is Scientific Paranormal Incident Research Investigation Team. It's a team of young teen girls. They're juniors in high school, named Ada, Mary, and Jane, who, along with their new friend that they meet in issue number 1 of Spirit, Ash, use their YouTube channel to disprove supernatural events. Well, that story is great alone, but when you add into the fact that supernatural events actually happen in the comic and they're faced to deal with supernatural occurrences, in the first issue it's ghost, in the second issue it's psychics, in the third issue it's Sasquatch, fourth issue is going to be UFOs. So, uh all that stuff is fun, and it makes for a comic in which there is conflict that isn't based around who's kissing or who's dating who, because I didn't
right,
necessarily want that, and it's not a conflict around, it's a debate amongst the characters about what is going on, what's real, what's not real, how does this work? And that goes that sort of skepticism is something I also want to promote in people as much as possible, you know?
okay,
And so, in the first issue, they are presented with ghosts and resolve the conflict between them and the ghost in a nonviolent manner. In the second issue, they're uh, a friend of theirs is their grandmother is being taken advantage of by a false psychic, like a fake psychic in town.
Right.
And this fake psychic has taken advantage of this poor girl's grandmother, and so they use their resources and intelligence to basically catch this person out and expose her for the fraud that she is.
Mm,
And then issue number 3, as I mentioned, the girls, while searching for Sasquatch, find a young Sasquatch who is hurt and is transgendered also. So this young Sasquatch character needs to meet with their parents at an appropriate time, uh, and so the girl characters from Spirit help this Sasquatch to meet their parents.
okay.
Now they're also being pursued by some cryptid hunters who are hot on the trail of the Sasquatch. So that's the sort of pursuit, excitement portion of the story.
Talk to us a little bit about the what people can expect on the Kickstarter then.
So in the Kickstarter, what is available are a couple of things. One, you can get this issue of Spirit in digital and uh, print form,
Okay.
or you can get all of Spirit, 1, 2, and 3 in digital or print form.
Okay.
There's also a level in which you can get all the Plague Doctor Press books. So you get Strange Ranger, you get Zed, and you get uh, the 3 Spirit books, both in digital and print, are
Oh,
available.
yeah.
Um, Other things that we're offering is one of the postcard artists from Spirit 2, Mauru Develos, who if you scroll down, there's a picture by her. It's the picture of the girls lying on the ground. That is my most popular postcard by far. People really like that postcard at shows. So I'm getting her to do these special kind of stickers that are
Oh,
called
cool.
pixie dust glitter stickers, which are just fun. How can that not be fun? So there's a sticker set available as well as Melissa doing commissions.
Okay.
We did have one large uh, reward that was already taken because essentially the story starts with them being pursued by Sasquatch. They think they're being pursued by Sasquatch, but they are actually not.
Okay.
And one of the characters says, um, it all started back at the comic book store. Now, there's 2 things that happen here. One, and we talked about this the last time I was on the show, I'm a huge proponent of local comic book stores. Go to your local
Right.
comic book store, support your local comic book store. Well, I've gone so far as putting my local comic book store in the comic.
Oh,
So
wow.
my local comic book store and the owner are going to be in the comic, and my number 1 backer is also gonna be in the store, and, him and his daughter are gonna appear and actually contribute to the issue too, and everybody's
Huh.
super excited about that. So that is what's available right now. Now, if you're know me, I like to do stretch goals, of course, and we're gonna announce some stretch goals soon because we're getting close to 70% on the Kickstarter. Um, I think you might see a Janssen Carbonell, variant cover. You might see
Nice.
Sasquatch maybe sticker that is a stretch goal, so everybody would get that sticker of the Sasquatch. And, uh, you know, uh, I'm all about read more comics, make more
Right.
comics, so you might see some stickers or pins that have those ideas on them as well, but I'm keeping them under wraps just a little bit, so.
Right. And so talk to us a little bit about just like the process, like the timeline and whatnot. As you mentioned, she's already working on the issue, right?
Yeah,
Does
she's already working on the issue, and, her major project for next year got delayed, so it's actually a perfect time for us, and it's you know, it I'm so lucky to work with Melissa. She did a Dark Horse book since we talked last. She's doing books that I know she's doing that we can't talk about, that you should have her on the show too, because she's gonna be doing some amazing books. Um, but I remember when I asked her about Janssen's artwork and what she thought of it, because it's very important to me that everybody who I work with likes everybody else, and, uh,
right.
her opinion is really important to me, and she was like, "That's great, he's not allowed to do Spirit." I was like, "Well, I was thinking maybe he'd do another story," and she's like, "That's good because 'cause I'm the only one who does Spirit." I was like, "Okay, that's fantastic."
Yeah.
Um, so that leads me to think, and my pipeline of my parts of things, like the writing, the lettering, the production, my I this'll be my 4th time through it. I know it better. I know what needs to go into it. I know the time it takes now.
Mm,
So, like, I'm already lettering Strange Ranger. I'm about half done the letters already on Strange Ranger. So when I get the final color pages for Strange Ranger, we should be able to go to print pretty soon after that. I think before the end of this year, I might go to print on Strange Ranger,
mm,
which means I think maybe by April we can get Spirit 2 done, Spirit 3 done. Um Indie Comic Con this year's in March. I don't think I'll have Spirit 3 for then, but I will have Strange Ranger by then for sure. So, it's just it is it's 2 things. It's production and it's printing. If you hit printing at the right time, they're like 3 weeks and you can have your books.
right.
And if you hit it at the wrong time, they're like, "We're backed up 2.5 months." It just
Right.
it it I really like the printer I use. It's called Comics Wellspring. They have done such a good job. Um, when I printed Spirit number 1 on a second printing, the guy who ran the store called me up. He's like, "So glad to see you're doing a second printing." And I don't do big print runs, but I felt like they actually cared about what I was doing, and that
Right.
means that they're gonna be careful printing my books.
Oh, and so a Strange Ranger and Spirit, is this in the same like literal universe, or are they two separate stories altogether?
Well, I'm not gonna let anything come out quite yet about that.
Well, I think the fact that you said it kind of answered the question. So,
There's a fun little thing in Strange Ranger that'll give you the answer to that. So,
yeah.
essentially, the one of the characters, Esme, is a shape-changing character, and
Hmm.
she changes into a number of shapes at one point in the episode. Now in the issue. Now 2 of those shapes are people who bought those rewards. They appear in the comic. One of them
Yeah.
was one of my best friends when I was a kid. Another, guy had his daughter appear, but, maybe one of the spirit characters shows up there too.
That's pretty cool.
So that's not beyond the realm of possibility. And I don't know if you noticed. So Spirit 2 has some Easter eggs in it. On this page, that's the basil and oregano poster up there
Oh,
from,
cool.
and then this is the poster right there.
Okay.
And oh, this is Falconhurst, which is um, Melissa's webcomic. So I'm a big fan of Stephen King's Everybody's in the Same Universe. So I kind of like that idea. And if I was to give you a hint of where to look next, the comic book shop has some comics behind the counter that are Plague Doctor Press yet to be announced releases.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Wow. Uh,
So
so are you trying to give so with Melissa, are you trying to give her knowing that her other project is delayed, are you going to try to push out issue number 4 written for her to start working on then before she has more coming up?
I don't know. I'm gonna do Strange Ranger 2 next,
Yeah,
and then I may do, and I have numbers to run because what I'd like to do is I've always envisioned there be 5 issues in the first year of the first kind of season of Spirit. So there's ghosts, psychics, Sasquatch, UFOs, and then the last one is witches. Um, I would like those all put together and in a trade because
right,
trades are easier to get to multiple distribution output
right,
spots, right? Like floppies are great if I go into the store or I'm at
right,
a con. Floppies are great. But if I'm contacting like just off the top of my head, Emerald Comics in uh Seattle, they love my
right.
books, but they want to trade.
Yeah.
Like they want to
So,
trade. So I may
right,
do the next Kickstarter being issues 4 and 5 together, and
right.
you have the option to buy the trade.
Cuz you're looking at like right now being generous, you'd be coming out with an issue a year then of Spirit.
Yeah.
So so with issue number 3 coming out in 2024, you're looking at then 2025, 2026 maybe having a trade coming out.
If I don't do 4 and 5 together
Right.
and then offer a trade as a
A reward tier. Yeah.
yeah. The last time I was on, I talked a lot about artists should be paid, and they absolutely should be paid, but every time I print the comic, it's cheaper, right?
Right.
Every printing of the comic makes that investment go down.
Right.
So, I may be able to do those 4 and 5 together, knowing that I have enough people who are interested in the trade.
Right.
Because the trade will be, like, close to 200 pages,
Right.
and that's a good sized trade, and, um, but it all depends on it depends on how well Strange Ranger 2 does and how well it sells at cons.
Right.
'Cause I take all that money, uh, from cons and put it back into the comics. I'm a zero sum
Right.
situation, and, like, the Indie Comic Con last year, I made enough to print another run of Spirit, like, I did that well at that con, and
Right.
more books on my table mean I'm gonna do better at these cons,
Right.
so hopefully, I might be able to do that, and I'd really like to do that, and I think Melissa would like to get to that point too, and then we can figure out we would like to do their senior year of high school as a trade right off the bat, right?
Okay.
Because
Yep.
we would have raised enough interest and network and things like that to raise that much money to pay her for a larger book.
Right. Yep.
So
Cool. So Mark, so if people want to learn more about Plague Doctor Press and your work, where is the best place they could go to?
so the best place to go is plaguedoctorpress.com.
Okay.
On and to follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and I'm calling it Twitter because that's what it is. Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. In addition, joining our mailing list helps a ton.
All right.
Now, if you join my mailing list, I'm not going to send you daily mail. I'm not that guy. I I send one a month because I have two newsletters that I do monthly, which is insane on the surface of it anyway. So I do one comic book newsletter a month, and that keeps you up to date on what we're doing and the latest things that we have available, and where I'm going to be, because people seem to like coming out and talking to me when they know I'm going to be in the area. So
And as we said, as of this recording, you do have Spirit number 3 is live, and we'll link it in the show notes for those that might be listening to this 6 months from now, and they hear about this. You can still be able to go to the link, and there'll be like a follow along button or something along those lines as well.
yeah, if you go to the link after we're done, it'll either link to the latest Kickstarter or link to the store where you can buy it. I'm actually gonna. I know these words are gonna come out of my head. December and January, I'm gonna take a break and do an update to the store, my shop, and things like that. Because I have a bunch of stuff that I have been selling at cons that I haven't been able to get on the shop just
Oh
because I
wow.
haven't had time. So
Yeah.
stickers and buttons and pins and all sorts of things. So
Right.
because people like those things at shows, like and at a table at a show, um, you want you don't want you want a variety of prices on your things
Right.
because a little girl comes up and she just wants a button, you know.
Yeah.
She may not be able to I my comics have a $10 cover price, which is a steep price for a little kid at first, you know.
Right.
Um, but then they open the book and they're like, "Hey, mom, can I get this comic? Because it's really cool."
Really cool. Yeah. Well, perfect. Listen, Mark, don't be a stranger, man. It's been a couple years. You come back on more often. This has been great.
I will gladly come back on more often, and maybe we should have Melissa or Janssen come on and talk about Strange Ranger 3 or Spirit 4 in the future.
Yes, absolutely. That'd be great.
So, thank you
All right.
so much for all the work you do. You certainly are putting out excellent content, and I watched a few of your videos today. The elephant eater one was just like, I cannot wait to get my hands on that book. That I am a pinball fanatic, and so is he. I'm like, I want that book in my hands because it's going to be beautiful.
Yeah, that was fun. Ryan's a fun guy to talk to. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So,
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much, Mark.
thank you and have a great night. And it was so good talking to you again, Barney.
Yeah, all right. Thank you. All
Wow,
right.
it's amazing what we've done. We've had people from Midsummer on the show now
Yeah,
who say that people from the show listen to our podcast. Um,
that's
we
amazing.
yeah, we asked a question about Father Brown on one podcast, and the showrunner from Father Brown got a hold of us and came on the show and answered our questions, which was
That's awesome.
insane. So we
But
had Annette Badland from the show. She's also on, Ted Lasso. So we
okay,
had her. She was absolutely lovely woman.
right.
Fantastic guest on the show.
Oh, cool. All right. Which one was she in Ted Lasso?
She runs the bar in Ted Lasso.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay.
Yeah, she's absolutely